A few days ago, I published a video where I was trying to tackle a JavaScript problem, which was to implement promise.all. And after a follow-up discussion that I had with a colleague of mine at work, he rightfully pointed out some bugs that my implementation might have. And in this video, I would like to share what I've learned from those mistakes that I made, and hopefully you will get something out of it too. This was my previous video that I was talking about. Now let's jump into the editor. So once again, this is the test that runs successfully, and in this case it is a very bad situation for me to be in, because not only do I have bugs in my implementation, but also in my tests that assert that implementation is correct. So the one bug in my implementation is quite obvious. It is this line here. So for example, if my promise that all would receive 4 promises, the entire promise that all would resolve when the third promise, doesn't matter which one, but when the third promise resolves. So when the third promise resolves, the entire promise that all would also resolve as well, which isn't the expected behavior. And there is also one other bug that I would like to highlight later, but for now I would like to start with the bugs in the test, because I feel like those are essentials to be solved if I want to make sure that my implementation is correct. So I would say, from a safer perspective, I should start with solving the bugs in my test file first. Okay, so this is my implementation. I should mention that I've added one new promise with timer to make things a bit more easier to understand. One very important thing to point out is that I'm using fake timers, which means that a set timeout of 2 seconds won't actually last 2 seconds because I don't want to add some extra time to my tests. So for instance, this promise with timer is just a set timeout with some provided time milliseconds, and after that timeout is finished, my promise will resolve. But once again, we are not using real time here. We are using fake timers because I don't want to add some extra time to my tests. So when this line here is invoked, VTest will know to take the timers in the right order and invoke them synchronously. So everything here at this line will happen synchronously. Yeah, basically this is what it does. It will take all of these fake timers, invoke them synchronously, and then it will go to the next line, which is the assertion line. However, the problem here is that I'm running this line before even doing my assertions. So if we think about this, well, I haven't thought about this when I wrote this, but now that I see with a fresh perspective, what I'm noticing is that I'm providing some promises. Some of them will resolve immediately, some of them should resolve later, but if I run this here, all of these promises that will resolve later will resolve now. So what I end up with is a bunch of promises that will resolve now or immediately. Or to be more technical, after this line I will have 4 resolved promises. And considering that in my implementation, which is here on the left, considering that in my implementation I'm going through each promise and then calling that, then this inner callback will be added to the microtask queue, which will be run at the end of the current loop iteration, or when the call stack will be empty, to be even more technical. So when we reach the assertion line, after invoking this function which resolve so after we invoke this function, my promise that all, we will end up with, and once again, the promises here, all of them are, or all of them will resolve immediately. So after invoking this line, I will have 4 promises that will resolve immediately. Adding the fact that I added a .then callback, what I end up with is with a microtask queue with 4 scheduled callbacks that will be run. The order in which they be run is the exact order that I've provided them here, because once again, all of them are already resolved. So this is the reason that although I am having this bug here, I'm getting the test green. So to quickly illustrate this, I've prepared a small diagram here. So after I'm going to move this a bit aside. So when we reach this point here, we end up with, at this point, we end up with 4 resolved promises, which would be the same as I might be wrong here, or my example might not be very exact, but having these promises resolved is the same as having all of them as promise that resolve value. So if they are already resolved, by adding a .then callback in my implementation, so if I'm adding this here, .then, this will mean that I will have my microtask queue filled with 4 callbacks, and the order the callbacks appear in the queue are the order in which they are resolved. And since the order I'm iterating through these promises is the order in which I have provided them, well, guess what? The microtask queue will contain the callbacks, which again are the then callbacks, but the order will be the order in which I have provided them. So my microtask queue will look something like this. The first one will be foo, and then we have bye, and then I will have hello, and then I'll have bar. And once again, the reason they are in this order is because at this point where this blue line is, should be here. So after this point, I'm ending up with 4 resolved promises. So basically, the fact that they should resolve after 2 seconds or something like that isn't that relevant, because I've run all timers, which again, vtest will take the timers in the fake timers in the order and will call the callback. And in my case, the callback will resolve the promise. So that's why at this point where this blue line is, I'm having 4 resolved promises. And since they are resolved, and since I'm iterating through them in the order I have provided them, and I'm adding a .then callback, and since once again they are resolved, the microtask queue will be filled with callbacks that respect the order in which I have iterated to promises. So this is why I'm having foo, bye, hello, and bar. So this answers a part of the question, which is why is the test successful? One other part that isn't quite answered now is why is this line here why isn't it causing any problems? Well, here comes a very interesting part. So at this point, just before the assertion, or to be more precise, after this function has been invoked, this promise that all has been invoked, we end up with this queue. But this expect and that resolve and so on, this will also schedule a callback in the microtask queue. However, this will be scheduled when all of these promises will resolve. And basically what this means is that the callback that corresponds to this, so let's call this expect, or expect callback, which essentially will be called when this promise will resolve. So this promise again matches to this assertion line. This callback will be called after all of this, so this will be the last one here, and probably they won't be, I think they will be run in the same run, meaning that after all of this resolve, or to be more precise, when hello here would resolve, this resolve promise will also be called, which will cause this expect callback to be added here as well, because as far as I know, the microtask queue is run exhaustively, which means that if, for example, this callback will schedule another promise which will resolve now, then that callback will be added to the same microtask queue, and that will be run in the same iteration of the microtask queue. So this is why, so to recap, the reason we are getting 4 values instead of 3 is that this callback bar will be called before the assertion callback. And guess what happens when bar is called? Well, when bar is called, first of all we'll have the counter increased, then we push into the values array, and then basically this check won't be successful because counter is equal to promises that count, or to promises count. And when this expect callback is run in the end, values will contain 4 values. And this is the reason. I know that this diagram doesn't look very nice now in the end, but hopefully I made things a bit more clear with regards to why the bug happens. This video I think is getting a bit too long, so I'm going to pause here and continue in the next video with the actual solution. So hopefully I was able to explain why the bug occurs, or one of the bugs occurs, because there is another bug with my implementation. But I think we will have enough time to go over that in the next video. So thank you for watching.